single-seaters that are about to come out on circuit. This is going to be the first machinery that we have seen on track today. Normally, we'd start the day with motorcycles. They were due to have their 56th edition free practice for the Macau Motorcycle Grand Prix. It's too wet. The motorcycles don't go out at Macau on a wet circuit. So when we left the hotel this morning, plenty of the motorcyclists were enjoying a leisurely breakfast and not coming in for the opening action of the day. Instead, it's going to be these. And I am absolutely delighted to say that alongside me in the commentary box, David Addison looking down on a familiar picture, single-seaters in the pit lane here at Macau, but an unfamiliar surroundings because we've got a wet circuit.
Absolutely. Alan, hi, good morning. Yes, it is a wet track, wet tyres, wet Pirelli tyres on all of these Tatius-built chassis. They're a Formula 3 style car and take part these in the myriad Formula Regional contests around the globe. And in a way, this is kind of going back to how the Macau Grand Prix was, where you take one rule set for single-seaters and you get the best drivers from Europe, from Asia, from, in the context of some, the Middle East, and you have this level playing field, whereas the last few years when we had Formula 3 cars here, it was a bit like a non-championship race for the same people that have been competing all year round. So what this has done is go back to that earlier spirit of the Macau Grand Prix. We've got some familiar names that have raced here, whether it's been in F3 or F4. We've got plenty of newcomers as well for the Macau Grand Prix this year, so it is going to be absolutely fascinating. And this first activity of the day, as Alan rightly says, on a wet track, is going to be a real eye-opener, because for many it's the first time they'll have been here. For many it's certainly the first time they'll have been here in the wet, and it is a properly soaking circuit. It looks very wet. I can tell you the rain has eased compared to what it was about half an hour ago, but it's going to be a real step into the unknown for many of them for the first few minutes. 40 minutes this session will be, and I think self-preservation is going to be the main aim here. The teams don't want a repair job, they want some data and they want their drivers to feel confident.
And so many of these young drivers are racing here at Macau for the very first time. Exactly, so yeah. There is no opportunity during the year to test on what is a road course. In fact, over the 4 days of the Macau Grand Prix, it is a road from 6 o'clock until 6 o'clock. That's where buses and lorries and vans and all the normal road traffic use this circuit. In fact, it's become a bit of a tradition now when we get the car from the crossing, come over the bridge from Hong Kong Airport and arrive here. You need to get your phone out quick and take a picture of you in a taxi going underneath the starting lights. Every year have to do it.
And it's not even the kind of circuit that you can easily walk round and go and get any reference points, because it is a road, as you say.
Or run around.
Well, you can do that if you're up really early. And I was up early, I promise you, yesterday. But yeah, if you're a normal person and you exist at normal working hours, then even a track walk is not the work of a moment, just because of the amount of traffic that uses the road. And that's why we have a tight curfew here, so the roads can reopen to all the traffic at the end of the day. But the first traffic we need to worry about are going to be these single-seaters. Looking down there, you can see number 6, which is one of the stars from FR this year, Tuka Tapanen. He starts as one of the favourites, but we do know, and Alan, you've been here more than me, that the form guide, no matter what you do in a championship, can go out of the window here, because it's just a unique place. Because
so many times we have had stars that have already been earmarked as being Formula 1 star drivers of the future, and it's always very exciting. I remember maybe the last biggest name that was here at Macau that everybody wanted to sort of say, oh, that's Max Verstappen, he's going to be the next big thing. And people come here to Macau, but maybe they expect to do well, maybe the media expect them to do well, maybe the fans expect them to do well. Who knows who's going to do well? But experience does count for a huge amount around this circuit. If you've been here before, if you found out the little tricks in a single-seater, whatever the single-seater may be, then you're not going to be using free practice to learn it for the first time. You're going to be tweaking what you've known already.
Last year, as the lights go green and the pit lane opens, the real star was Luke Browning, who had a mediocre Formula 3 season, but was an absolute revelation all weekend here and was a very deserving winner of the Grand Prix. 1 or 2 of the people he was up against are in this entry, but as we've been saying, there are lots of new names. Oliver Goethe, for example, drives number 1. He was 9th in the Grand Prix last year. He is one of the drivers who's been competing in both F3 and F2 this year, so he sort of takes a sideways step. But that gives you an idea on the way down towards Mandarin of just how wet it is. Oliver Goethe, who is part of the Red Bull Junior team, hence the livery, tiptoes his way through. And bearing in mind that when we left the hotel about 7 o'clock, it was dry, we've had an awful lot of rain fall in the last couple of hours. And not only are there going to be puddles and standing water, there's going to be an awful lot of spray. Not everybody has yet left the pit lane, which could be quite a sage move, really. And the last thing you want to do is get stuck behind anybody and lose visibility here.
Just look how much standing water there is just in front of our commentary box, which is just down by the start-finish gantry. There are puddles just next to the pit wall itself, which went down to the pit lane yesterday to just acquaint myself with the various things. These liveries are wonderful, yes, they are exclusive for this weekend. And you realise just how long the pit lane is here. It's a remarkable place, Macau, because so much of the infrastructure is here all year, because Macau is very much so aware that this is a huge event every year. It's something for everybody who lives here, everybody who works here, it's something to look forward to every year. So obviously the garages are here. So many of these structures that go up are temporary and will start to come down. And indeed, as soon as the Grand Prix finishes at the end of Sunday, then the barriers there put it up. I'd love to see the storage units. I mean, there's a huge amount of hardware that gets stored away, isn't there?
Absolutely, because it's a 6-mile lap, and there's an awful lot of barrier, posts, you name it. So, from the Solitude S's through towards Moorish and Police, the cars tiptoe, and at the end of this, we'll start to see going on to a flying lap. I mean, it's going to take a long time before we get really representative laps. The rain is still falling as well, so it's going to be confidence more than anything that starts to determine the improvements in lap time. They've gone out largely team by team, so just been looking at numbers 2 and 3, Valerio Rinichella and Matteo Colnaghi in the other 2 MP Motorsport cars. The blue car in the background, the KCMG engine car of Noah Leon. And this is going up now through Donna Maria. The next part of the circuit is the, I hate to use the word iconic, but it is the sort of focal point of the circuit, the Melco hairpin. So tight a hairpin that overtaking is prevented. And if you've seen it before, that's how tight it is. 1 or 2 drivers struggling with the lock.
But it's not easy.
Us getting it right.
It's not easy.
And then the road opens up, doesn't it? So this next bit feels a lot wider. You can sort of breathe again, and the speed builds coming out of our bend up towards the timing line, and then that long, fast run all the way back down to Lisboa.
I do remember there was a demonstration building up to the Grand Prix one year. There was a demonstration of Formula 3 cars of yesteryear that competed here at Macau, and I think at least one of them couldn't get round the Melco hairpin because I think it was underestimated. And this was someone driving it that knew a lot about motor racing. But it's quite a long car, and they get buses around the Melco hairpin in everyday life. But I think you've got to get your line right.
So, onto a flying lap goes Oliver Goethe, and it will go green, it will go purple, because he's the first person for all of the sectors on a proper push lap out of Lisboa, and now through San Francisco, up the long, steep climb of San Francisco Hill that starts about now, and it's deceptive. You get to a crest, and you think, good, I've got to the top of the hill, but then it actually keeps on climbing a little bit more and a little bit more, and finally, the road dips downhill ever so slightly. Behind him, Tuukka Tappinen, however, is going even quicker within the first sector of the lap. There are 5 sectors for the Macau circuit, the gear circuit, and Oliver Goethe will go purple in each of them because he's the first one there. But behind him, the likes of Tukkinen and also James Wharton, who's been another star of FR in the European Championship this year, they're going quicker still. And interestingly, Alan, 1 or 2 at the end of their outlap heading for the pit lane.
So they've had the exploratory lap, and they can maybe bring back a bit of information to the team. In fact, some teams are bringing in all of their cars, aren't they, after 1 lap, just presumably to get a bit of feedback from the drivers about just exactly how wet it is. Well, incredibly wet. We saw Oliver Goethe just breaking into Lisboa, and that little twitch from the back of the car. It's a sign to us all. It's not easy, this. Very, very difficult. And also, first thing in the morning, the circuit is quite greasy anyway, with all the traffic that's been going overnight. normal everyday traffic and put a load of water on top of all that traffic. This is not very nice stuff. I also like the fact that you have run the circuit, because now when you're talking about going around the track, you're talking about undulation, which we don't necessarily get an idea of on the television pictures, but when you've run it, you know all about it up to the Macau hairpin, don't you?
Yeah, pretty much. After the hair, it definitely drops downhill, and there are, as you've seen, slight dips on the way down towards Moorish, but largely, yeah, there's a long climb on that part of the circuit. And here, well, big slide by Goethe. The confidence, I think, comes back to you because the road opens up and you think, good, it's wider, I can push. And Goethe proving that you can't push quite as hard as he would like. He got perilously close to the wall. He's going to come through and set the target time. And this, of course, is the first ever flying lap for an FR car around here. So Oliver Goethe goes through and does a 2:55.674. That's the benchmark, which I think will go in short order with Tuka Tappanen and also James Wharton looking quick behind him. But Oliver Goethe has gone through. Tappanen actually not as quick, 2:57.8. Look at the spray.
I was going to say,
in the air.
The poor cameraman just, you know, hold your line. It will appear at some stage, but the amount of time we're waiting for the car to come into view from the ball of spray, if you're following someone around, you just can't do it. You can't see a thing.
And I think that's one reason why we've had cars into the pit lane, on the basis that we're not going to achieve anything in the spray. Let's see if the road dries out a little bit. Oliver Goethe then the quickest. The
trouble is, without cars going around, it's not going to dry out a little bit because humidity here is normally very high. And with the amount of water around, this is going to be something like 80% humidity or something, isn't it?
I think you're right. Freddie Slater has now gone fastest. You can see on that timing tower, SLA is Freddie Slater, who came here last year to race, not in the Grand Prix, but the first weekend. It was a double weekend event last year, the Formula 4 category. And everybody expected, because he is a star driver, to win in F4, and he had a problem in the race that caused him to drop back. So I think he ran well to win. Took the F4 victory, but Freddie Slater, perhaps with a point to prove, feeling that last year a win got away from him. He's certainly a driver to watch, Freddie Slater the Brit, because he's very highly rated. He's a very good pedigree in junior single-seater racing. He's won the Italian and the UAE Formula 4 titles this year. And although this is his FR debut, he does know the circuit.
Yeah, so a debut in the Grand Prix, very much the headline for this year, the FIA FR World Cup. But as you rightly say, last year we had a double weekend. We had a celebration of the 70th Macau Grand Prix. So we had a shorter meeting for the first weekend and a longer meeting for the second weekend. And the one thing that it did was to open it up, and they do it every decade. So they celebrated the 60th Macau Grand Prix with exactly the same 2-weekend best of the most. It does get lots of seats on track, doesn't it?
Yeah,
and if you've got a circuit that's only open for 4 days in a normal year, to have it open for 6 days was a great opportunity.
Gave more of the local drivers a chance to race as well. Alex Dunn, who was another driver here last year, but in the Grand Prix rather than the F4 race, he's lighting up sectors right now. So it's an interesting session, this, as you start to see who is prepared to push on. This is Tuka Tappanen then, heading up towards Fisherman's Bend and then towards our bend at the end of the lap. Through the spray he will come. And Freddie Slater remaining the fastest, 2:54.9, but it's going to be really revealing when we get to a dry circuit over the weekend what a proper lap time can be. What can Tappanen do? He's down to 5th at the minute as he comes up towards the line. Tuka Tappanen goes through and goes quickest, 2:53.274 now. So the lap times are coming. I wouldn't say the road is drying, but I think drivers a bit more confident. The escape road has gone. Number 88, and that means that the strive is Kai Darianani for Evans GP, the British driver, up the escape roads towards the end of the lap, turn 18.
He's been racing in British F4 for the last couple of years, has Kai, and competed in F4. It's second year at Macau for Kai, came 10th in the F4 last year. Alex Dunn goes to the top of the times. He was on course for it, wasn't he, in the first 3 sectors went purple, so quickest to anyone. He was superb last year, absolutely superb, until, unfortunately, a crash rather hindered his progress. But Alex Dunn is something that we need to keep an eye on. Proved that already.
Yeah.
Got to the top of the times.
Yeah, the speed was there, but he got sort of sucked in, didn't he, in the Grand Prix itself, down on his Burr, and that's where the accident took him out on the first lap of the Grand Prix itself, because all the categories that we have for Grand Prix, GT, touring cars, they will have, if you like, a qualifying race and a main race. It was the main race that did for Dan last year. Darianani has got going again, so the road is clear. And at certain parts, being a little bit less grim, isn't it? You see Valerio Rinicella go by, 20th in the European FR Championship this year, debut at Macau, and coming out of the MP Motorsport stable Dutch team. 28.5 minutes still to go as the drivers explore. The pit lane is pretty much empty. We've got 1 or 2 cars still there, but more and more drivers now deciding that, yeah, track time matters. Let's get on with it.
Yeah, they get the longest sessions on circuit. They get 40 minutes. Everyone else today gets 30 minutes for not only the TCR, the FIA TCR World Tour events of Macau, but also the Macau GT Cup. The FIA GTs all get half an hour, and so too we have our GT4 cars, and we have our road sports local drivers competing today as well. And there is one competitive element to today, in a day of free practice, so just the opportunity to, for many, learn the circuit, for many to dial into the conditions. But we do at the end of so the next time that we see these cars on circuit towards the middle of the afternoon, 3 local time this afternoon, they will have their first qualifying session today.
Yes, you say it's a day largely of free practice, valuable track time. So Alex Dunn the quickest at the moment by 0.7 of a second, which is quite a margin, as Rinicella then heads towards the timing line. He was 9th and has now gone 5th fastest, Valerio Rinicella. So it's Dunn, Goethe, Tappanen, then Mathieu Colnaghi is up to 4th, Rinicella is 5th, and Enzo Deligny now into the top 6. Deligny, somebody else who has been a regular in FR machinery this season, 12th in the European series, the Shanghai-born driver, Enzo Deligny. But that's all changed, because now up to 2nd quickest has gone another potential winner of the Grand Prix, Dino Beganovic, who did drive here last year, and 2 years ago was an FR European champion before he went off to race in the FIA Formula 3 Championship. But he knows the machinery and he does know the circuit from last year. So Beganovic up to 3rd, Freddie Slater back to the top of the times.
Yep, so Slater top of the times, Freddie Slater with a time 2 minutes 48.3, and Alex Dunn therefore 2 minutes 48.5 down in 2nd place. However, Alex Dunn is pressing on. He's gone purple in the 1st sector, so overall best in sector 1. It's just reviewing what Alex Dunn did last year. We were talking about his impressive performance over the course of the weekend. Qualified in 6th, came 2nd in the qualification race on the Saturday, and then it was the DNF on Sunday. So that great performance on Saturday rather led us to think that, wow, he could be on the top step of the podium on Sunday, and then it all rather came unravelled. Well,
and Beganovic was the same. I mean,
yes,
he was another
exactly
in the main race, the Grand Prix itself, who crashed out early on. Yeah. Right, this is Freddie Slater, fastest, 2:48.3, so he's ahead by just under 0.2 of a second. And bearing in mind that he's learning about this car, this is quite an impressive start to the weekend, isn't it?
It really is, yeah. And impressive by all of them to have... bear in mind that many of these drivers have just experienced Macau for the very first time and have done it in possibly the worst conditions that you could hope for. And they've done a jolly good job of not causing any kind of delays. For the first time we've seen... Just see that slide coming out of the corner for Freddie Slater, really pushing on, just trying to work out how you can apply the power on such a wet circuit.
Goes up through Donna Maria, and at the moment actually has bought the road to himself, hasn't he? There's nobody around him to get in the way, so at certain parts of the lap it does look like it's drying, but it's not a consistent dry all the way around, and of course it's not a consistent tarmac all the way around, is it? There's, you know, new patches here, old patches there, so the circuit continues to evolve for the drivers, especially in these conditions that are far from ideal. But I think the rain has stopped, even though there's an awful lot of spray still hanging around.
And we've got quite a few changes at the top as well. Ugo Gachukwu has gone top now, the American driver, part of the McLaren a course of young drivers.
Oh dear.
And unfortunately we have the first bit of damage, and that has been unfortunately it's gone the way of Kobayashi.
And triggered a red flag. So straight away, not even a crane to get the car out of the way, straight away a red flag is called, and the session is stopped. Now, free practice, you'll be familiar with this, the clock will carry on ticking, so the downside to the interruption for everybody is that they're losing out on mileage. So the clock ticks on down, but Rui Marquez, the race director, instantly calls for the red, and there, quite a big impact and a very hard stop for the Japanese driver Rikuta Kobayashi into the tyre barrier. Rui Marquez, I mentioned, as the race director for the Macau Grand Prix, and has been in the papers quite a bit this last couple of days because he's going to be the new Formula 1 race director with immediate effect next weekend from Las Vegas onwards. So got some air miles to accrue from here to Vegas, but straight away, red flag. Won't take long to get that car out of the way, but I think the nature of it, where it was, and as you can see, the nose firmly planted into the tyres, it wouldn't really have been safe to carry on the session and try and move that. But it's being moved very, very swiftly.
Yeah, they do not mess around, these recovery cranes that are placed at strategic points around the circuit, and you get one of those incredibly unique pictures where you've got a car which is going around to come around a very long lap to come into the pit lane, and a car and a crane just above it.
Yeah.
Come around this bow, which is pretty rare. But when you walk around the circuit, you see just how many cranes and heavy lifting equipment are strategically placed around the circuit to aid a very quick resumption of on-track activity here at Macau. It's just an incredibly well-oiled machine here.
Yes, it's a good contract to have, isn't it? Because
Yes.
you need them at every corner. You could say business is picking up.
Very good.
Now, you know, I said it was not raining anymore. I lied. It started again. So the rain is falling, even if it's relatively light. Everybody to the pit lane.
I think it's going to be like that all day.
Yeah, I think you're right. And the session is suspended, so we will get back up and running as soon as. But as you can see, the clock ticks on down. Yeah.
Coming off the wet tyre. Absolute fountain of water coming out from the tread on the tyre.
You're not going to see it on the wets, I don't think, but on the Pirelli slicks, you will see a dragon logo as well that's been incorporated into the design for Macau this year. Pirelli supplied the tyres for not just the FR World Cup, the Macau Grand Prix, but also the FIA GT World Cup as well.
So cars into pit lane, opportunity to have a quick chat to the teams. And bear in mind, you can see the teams walking around the cars, and you may well see the pictures of the rain coming down here at Macau, but the guys down in the pit lane are all wearing short sleeves. That's because it might be raining, but it's pretty warm here.
Yeah.
The ambient temperature is still very typical of this time of year around this area. So it's warm rain that comes down when it does rain. It's just as wet as, as the rain that we know in the UK, but it's an altogether nicer rain, nice and warm.
It's like having a hot shower, you mean?
It is a bit, yeah.
Number 17, ready to go back out, Evan Gilter for ART Grand Prix, and Gilter yet to get himself into the top 14. One driver has been noted for crossing the pit lane exit line, and that is Rikuta Kobayashi, who's, as we know, in strife because he's got a rather broken car, but he's also possibly incurred the wrath of the race officials as well.
He's getting a view of Kanato Lee. 17 years old is Kanato. has been competing over in the UK last year in British F4 and FR Euro this year for Kanato Lee. Ended up 7th in the British F4 Championship last year, did Kanato. Just look down the, there was quite a shuffle of order just before the red flag came out, bringing this session to a premature halt. Alex Dunn had gone quickest, Dino Beganovic was second, Ugo Chukwu, who we were in the middle of talking about, weren't we, Ugo Chukwu. The McLaren Driver Development Programme is the course that Ugo Chukwu has taken for the last few years, because even a couple of years ago when he was competing in British F4, there was quite an iconic, I was doing the podium for one of the races and I thought, do my eyes deceive me? But is that Zach Brown running around in front of the podium with his phone out taking a video? And it was Brands Hatch. So very hands-on managing of Ugo Chukwu by Zach Brown.
Now, is there another car?
I think there is,
that needed to be retrieved. So it wasn't just Kobayashi's car, which you could argue, seeing that the speed it was removed, they could possibly have kept the session going for, but another car maybe has come to grief elsewhere as well. That is Ugo Chukwu, who was in the F4 race last year, and Kobayashi crossing the pit exit line is going to be investigated after the session. He won't be going back out, as we know, with the damage, but I'm trying to work out who the other driver is that we've got in the wall.
Can't
somewhere.
quite see it because it's required the mobile crane. We've got.
Can I offer you a thought? Sorry to interrupt you. Dino Beganovic has not made it back to the pit lane.
Just gone second. Yeah.
So Beganovic back to Macau, but with the same fortunes, seemingly, going off into the barrier. And Beganovic, one of the drivers for, if you like, the home team, because although it's Prema Racing, Rennie Rossin's team, it carries the SJM and Theodore name as well, Teddy Yip's team, Theodore, which was a family so associated with the Macau Grand Prix. So Beganovic, sadly, looks as though he is also a casualty of the circuit, and that
rather iconic livery as well, the red and the white and the gold that we see every year on the Theodore cars here at Macau. Very distinctive. I love the unique liveries that we have for this weekend. It's a joy the day before we start the on-track action, just walking around and seeing what the teams, the amount of thought that's gone into the not just the single-seaters, but we see it throughout the day for the saloon cars, for the touring cars, the road sports cars, and for the GT cars as well. The thought that goes into the GT liveries is immense for this meeting. Yeah,
I think that's kind of evolved into an unofficial competition now, hasn't it? Of the best
really
liveries.
Has. Yeah, it really
the manufacturers taking it very, very seriously indeed. Murray Boyer, another driver that's going to be worth watching, I think, this weekend. Experienced single-seater racer you're looking at down in the pit lane for the KCMG IXO by Pinnacle Motorsport team. 31 there is Freddie Slater, who was the fastest, but he's dropped to 6th now. And that is a legacy of others going faster. One of the best parts of the Macau Grand Prix weekend, unquestionably, is that what you see on a timing screen is what you get. There's none of this track limit lap being disallowed, because if you exceed track limits here, well, you see what happens, you're in the wall, and it doesn't focus the attention. That's the man that's quickest then, Alex Dunn. Second generation racer, his father Noel, very handy Formula Ford 1600 racer, just like actually Freddie Slater, second generation racer, because his father Adrian was a very handy Porsche racer going back 20 something years. Cooper Webster ready to go. Now, I can't remember how many minutes we had on the clock. I want to say about 24 to go, but we've lost the best part of 10 while this is all being sorted out. So the drivers eager to get back out again.
Yeah, it will be rather different when we go into qualifying mode for later on, 3:25 this afternoon, the second time that we'll see the single-seaters out on circuit, the FR cars, because a red flag will bring the clock to a stop during free practice. That's when it continues to tick down, and basically they're losing familiarisation time, which is rather costly. But isn't it super? On the Thursday, when you see how many people are out there, families that are out there, school trips that are out there enjoying everything about this event. So it's takes over the whole of Macau. It's just a great feeling.
And we are within a minute of a green flag, so those fans happy in the grandstands will be happier soon, because they're going to see cars back out on the circuit. And let's see whether or not we're going to have much shuffling of the order. The rain has eased once again, but it's going to take a lap or two before tyres come back up to temperature and back up to pressure. And at the moment, as we've been saying, it is Alex Dunn who is the fastest, and surprisingly, we've got 3 drivers that have yet to do a lap time. Sorry, two drivers. Kai Darianani, who we'd seen up the escape road. And the other one, and he raced here last year, is Noah Leon. He's not yet done a lap time. The palindromic Noah Leon. So the green flag is imminent. And now the session goes live, 14 minutes to go.
Yeah, so the cars making their way out of pit lane. They've got all of that work to do. How warm do you think they were able to get those tyres during that? Probably not at all, really. Very little.
No, I think they've probably got a bit of life into them, a bit of warmth. But you know, we're talking really about the tread needing to cut through the water more than anything. And I think they were starting to cut through. I think some of that water was dissipating. It was looking a bit more palatable a line, wasn't it, before the stoppage?
It's going to be at the end of this session. It's going to be touring cars that go out and GTs after that. And everything is replicated over the course of today. So free practice for all 6 of the categories that we have racing here. And then we replicate that this afternoon, just with this qualifying session being the only competitive session of the day today.
Now, that's Lisboa, where, and Alan, you talked about this last year, it narrows on the way down, doesn't it? It's a nice wide part of the circuit, and then it does not funnel. And it's a blind corner pretty much, isn't it? And again, we see drivers going wide. We've seen it in this session and into the barriers, but when we had onboard shots last year, it was so difficult to find the clipping point, the turning point for the corner.
Such a public moment, isn't it, when you understeer straight on at that corner. And there's a huge grandstand, always immensely populated, already a problem for... now, you pronounce this far better than me. So what are we going to agree on here?
Alexander Abkazova.
Yeah, beautifully done.
Is up the escape road at Lisboa, the aforementioned corner. And actually, he's done the right thing. If you're nervous about turning in,
go straight on.
Go straight on. Yeah. You might lose time, but you've not picked up any damage. And Abkazova here can sort himself out, get going again. But yeah, we saw drivers, we will see it over the weekend, getting themselves in strife coming into the corner and trying to fight the car round and ending up in the wall, rather than jinking left up the escape road, spin it round and rejoin. So
yeah, so to finish the conversation,
sorry,
about no, not at all. Lisboa is one of those iconic shots, isn't it?
Yeah.
And one of the reasons is that it's named after the Grand Lisboa, the hotel which is just on the other side of the corner. So the shot, the television shot of one of the most obvious overtaking opportunities, because they are absolutely racing down towards that braking zone for the right-hander. It is perhaps one of the most iconic shots here at Macau.
It was a fantastic photograph from last year. I think it was a Drew Gibson photograph. Drew's the official photographer for the event. And it says everything about Macau. It's from the GT race, and the whole first lap, the whole pack, every car a different colour. You've got the crane hanging over it, you've got the narrowness of it, you've got the barriers, you've got the Chinese writing, the shops to the right. It's a brilliant photograph that just says Macau.
Sums up everything in one picture. Yeah.
I think it was used in the GT report in Autosport magazine in the UK last year. Anyway, back to the plot with 11 minutes to go. And now Oliver Goethe goes on to a flying lap. Again, second-generation racer. His father, Roel Goethe, occasional GT racer and historic racer. The Goethe family has this amazing Rothgo collection of Gulf-liveried racing cars, which is quite something. And Oliver Goethe, the single-seater gun in the family, and his brother Benjamin has become a very handy GT racer as well. And that's Lisboa. That's the thing I was talking about, the shops on the right-hand side. And it's worth pointing out, Alan, as you look around the lap, that although there's a free practice session going on, so is normal life. All those shops around the circuit are open for business. You can nip in, watch a single-seater, and do your shopping and carry on, whatever.
The thing that maybe we can't convey so well on television It's the noise from well, 7:45 in the morning when the motorcycles in a normal day go out on circuit. It's pretty much the noise around Macau for the entire day. It echoes everywhere because there's all these barriers there. They bash the sound back, they make it reverberate around the circuit. For Macau life, which continues, we can see it all happening from the ferry terminal just opposite us. Little motorcycles going around and buses, and you would be in no doubt, not just because the fact that these local roads are closed to have the gear circuit on them, but you will hear it for as far as you can drive.
And there will be a shot towards the end of the lap of the cars on track and the traffic on the next road parallel, just as we've been saying, going about ordinary business. Now, into the last 10 minutes of the session, Oliver Goethe improving straight away, first flying lap after the red flag, and he's able to do purple sectors. That would suggest that the road is starting to dry, and even though the tail wags there coming out of Donna Maria down to the Macau hairpin, the drivers are getting the confidence to push. Go wide towards the barrier, as much lock as you can use, click the tail out, spit it round the corner, and Goethe is on a mission here.
Really is, yeah. As you say, purple in sector 3, purple now in sector 4 as well. So personal best in sector 2, but purple in the middle sectors. Final sector just about coming about, so this is going to be exciting, isn't it, coming up towards the completion of this lap, and we've got 8.5 minutes of this session that remain.
And not only is Goethe going nicely to do purple sectors, but so also is Alex Dunn. So this is Oliver Goethe coming out of our bend up towards the timing line. He's got to try and do something better than a 2:43.7, and Goethe will break the beam and go second fastest. 2:45.222, second and a half down on Dunn. Now that's a big improvement. Oliver Goethe, with 8 more minutes on the clock, is on a big charge now. That puts him ahead of Dino Beganovic. The next driver that's just gone across the line is Tutti Tappanen, who's having a bit of an understated session here. There is Tappanen, he's only 9th.
And Alex Dunn has gone purple in sector 1, purple in sector 2. Now bear in mind, this is free practice. It's the acclimatisation, if you like. It's the getting used to the conditions that we've got. But it's a view into what could potentially happen if track conditions are the same in the first session of qualifying this afternoon. And in fairness, if the weather cheers up and it's a lot drier tomorrow, the qualifying session this afternoon is going to be absolutely meaningless.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, the drivers want a dry track. Right now, they're learning about Macau, learning about the car, and it's all useful experience. Alex Dunn, 2 purple sectors, but he's a bit down in the 3rd. Alex Dunn in another of those Prema Racing cars. But in the meantime, who else do we anticipate improving? Well, almost everybody is finding something in a sector at the moment. And whoops, up the escape road goes Murray Boyer for KCMG. Murray Boyer 4th in the times, and he's gone off at Lisboa, so he's done an Abkhazova, he's gone up the escape road, as now Noah Leon, first proper lap, is 2nd quickest. That's very impressive, 2:44.611. So Noah Leon up to 2nd fastest in number 7. That's the teammate to that car for KCMG. He was 10th in the Grand Prix last year, Noah Leon, as in the meantime, Murray Boyer tries to sort himself out from the escape road.
Freddie Slater has gone overall best in sector 4 on this lap. Alex Dunn is top of the times. Noel Leon is 2nd. Oliver Goethe is 3rd, having just put in a purple in the middle sector, and Freddie Slater has put in a purple in the 4th sector. We've got 6 minutes just about of this session remaining. A few of them electing to come into pit lane with 6 minutes left on the clock.
That was Alex Dunn, wasn't it? I think, who came in. So Dunn in. Slater goes top, 2:43.2. So by 0.4 of a second now, Freddie Slater goes to the top of the times. It's a Prema / Theodore 1-2. Slater from Dunn. Noah Leon is 3rd. Oliver Goethe is 4th. The damaged Beganovic not taking part, 5th. Murray Boyer 6th. Ugo Ugachukwu is 7th. Evan Gilter is 8th. Enzo Deligny is 9th. And Théophile Nael is 10th.
Goethe's going to go top, pretty sure. Yep, does. So purple in 3, 4 and 5, and that amounts to 2:41.2.
And that amounts to 2 seconds. Yeah. 2 seconds, count them, quicker than anybody else. That is a mighty lap. Now, either that proves that Oliver Goethe is testicularly enhanced and has taken his brave pills this morning, or that the road is drying out and everybody else can go quicker now.
Don't expect me to talk after that, please.
The point being, that's quite a margin, Alan.
Yeah, very impressive.
The time, certainly.
Yeah.
So Goethe top, but now we'll see if anybody else can get close to him. 2 seconds is a lot of time to find. So well done, Oliver Goethe, because that was quite a lap. And actually, Freddie Slater on his next lap, not improving in sector 2. And somebody has picked up big damage there. Broken car, limps on. And it is James Wharton, who should be one of the stars, because he was a race winner in Europe and also in Strife, having had one moment. Kanato Lee has had another problem. And where is that? It's in the middle of the road. He's going to get going again. And mercifully, he's in the right direction. So he carries on. I wonder whether those two got themselves together. Anyway, James Wharton's rather broken car limps on.
In the final throes of this first free practice session, because we've only got just ticking down to now 4 minutes remaining. That's not going to be easy to drive back. Look at this. Goodness me. It's going to be quite a feat in itself, to drive it back.
And you know what the frustration is? That someone on a quick lap is going to find that, and their lap's going to be compromised.
Yes.
OK, it's only free practice. James Wharton's trying to drag it back to the pit lane so they can start work on that car, but good luck getting it around the Malco hairpin. I'm not convinced. No, absolutely. It's not easy in a straight line. Now, bearing in mind, as you can see, it's crab-like with the suspension all tweaked. I think the magnitude of what he's got to try and do now is starting to hit home for James Wharton, the Australian driver. And quick car behind.
What do you think?
I think he should have gone up the escape road.
I think
and
you're
parked
right.
it. But anyway, he's offline.
Yeah.
Let's see what happens. Yellow flag, turn 19. There you can see James Wharton just can't make the corner. So Goethe, Slater, Dunn, Leon, Tappanen, Ugachukwu is your top 6. But I have to say, that was a mighty lap by Oliver Goethe. Next casualty up the escape road, not for the first time, Alexander Abkhazova. I think it's Lisboa again.
So just as we get towards the closing stages of this free practice session, it all just gets a little bit much, doesn't it? They've, by and large, and a red flag comes out. So with 2 minutes and 45, the next time we see these cars on circuit is going to be for their first qualifying session of the weekend, because I very much doubt they're going to get things cleared up in time to get cars back out on circuit. That's going to be it.
That was Wharton, who just aquaplaned towards the barriers, cannoned off them, and when he came back into shot, had done all of the damage. Alan is right, the session will not resume with only 2 minutes on the clock. So there's another car stationary. Who is that we've lost? That is Sota Agawa. So
how many cars did we lose right at the end there?
Abkhazova was at the escape road, Wharton was stuck at the hairpin, then there's that. So there's a general sweep up, I think, really. 3, 4, 5 cars right at the end of the session. However, one thing that we did learn during that session was how many drivers potentially could be at the top of this field, which is fantastic to see. We might have had maybe half a dozen drivers that were for a shorter or longer period at the top of the times. And that was in these conditions, these really testing conditions. Yeah, Oliver Goethe, I think, for my money, the real standout with that margin, to be fastest by 2 seconds from Freddie Slater and Alex Dunn third. Noah Leon fourth from Tuki Tappanen, and then 6th, Ugo Ugachukwu. The top 10 rounded out by Cooper Webster, Teofil Neal, Dino Beganovic, who crashed in the first drama that caused the red flag, and Enzo Delini running out that top 10. 11th, Mari Boyer, who'd gone up the escape road. Evan Gilter, 12th, Alexander Abkhazova twice up an escape road, 13th from Valerio Rinicella, Matteo Colnaghi and Matteo Palo. Then Yin Nakamura, James Wharton with damage, only 18th in the times. Kai Darianani never got a lap in. He was a casualty right at the start up an escape road and wasn't able to get a lap in at all. So Kai Darianani on the back foot going into activity for the rest of the day. So a red flag came out with around about 3.5 minutes left of the session. There is now just half a minute of this session, and we'll get the chance to review our first on-track activity this year for the 71st Macau Grand Prix.